my name is Emily Holtz, and I am an assistant professor in the Department of Theory and Practice and Teacher Education. And I work primarily with our elementary education candidates. Yeah, so the course that I teach is a professional development seminar for our current interns who are working on their master's while also doing a full year internship in the schools. So this past academic year, I really wanted to support their use of generative AI as a planning and reflection tool. So they used ChatGPT to help write and revise lesson plans, come up with questions, ideas for assessment, all the things that we know that good teachers do. And we also, through this, talked a lot about how to use AI responsibly, including maybe ethical concerns, potential biases. But overall, they really used AI to support their planning. And we used time in class to really think through those use cases of AI, what it was good at, maybe what it struggled with, so that they could really connect their lessons and that tool to their teaching goals, their student needs. And I recognize that I am at a huge advantage because I get to have this group of students for an entire academic year, not just a semester. And so I think that having kind of this year-long approach to using AI really helped them to improve in their planning, instruction, assessment, reflection, and really gave them a good opportunity of how they might use AI to support, not replace, good teaching and the learning that they've had in our program. Primarily used ChatGPT and mostly just to support lesson development. So I wanted, as I kind of mentioned, I wanted it to really serve as a collaborative planning tool, not as a replacement for their lesson planning. And I wanted them first to rely on their content knowledge, their teaching strategies, their pedagogical practices that they had learned from our program. But using ChatGPT as a way to enhance this knowledge. So I think one thing that came across quite a bit in our discussions in class was they described ChatGPT as an idea generator. They really appreciated that it helps spark ideas for activities, assessments, their questioning, but they ultimately wanted to be the ones to make the final decisions. Alongside ChatGPT, we also used a couple of teacher reflective tools. So one example was TeachFX, and it's where students had the opportunity to record their own teaching in their classroom and then get specific feedback on what types of questioning they were utilizing, the amount of teacher talk versus student talk. And I think this also helped to really again, that collaborative tool. So when they're in their own classrooms and they don't have a mentor teacher or a supervisor to give them feedback on their lessons, perhaps they have these tools that can help support their future teaching. Sure. So, I mean, I would say overall, they've responded really positively to using AI tools. And many of them indicated that they plan to keep using generative AI in their future classrooms. I think, but I do think that one thing we were able to do, which was really important to me, was to develop this critical lens around AI. So I wanted them to approach the tools with curiosity, but also with caution. So even though they were excited about the possibilities and had that positive reaction, they also brought up important concerns like data privacy, potential bias of the tool, and the fact that AI can't fully understand their students or the specific contexts of the schools that they work in. So I was really proud of this balance that they struck, where they saw the benefits, and it is something they'll continue to use because I think that they're going to see more and more use of AI tools in their future teaching careers, but they're not blindly trusting the tool, and that's kind of the the cautious optimism that I was hoping for, that they would have that balance of excitement, but also a careful approach to using the tool. Students, there were some things we worked through in terms of like the prompting, specifically with ChatGPT. We learned how to prompt it better to really get the outputs that we were looking for. But I think probably one of the most challenging parts was helping students to think critically about how and why they were using it. So kind of as I mentioned, there was a lot of excitement around ChatGPT. I think even I had this excitement myself when I first was introduced to the tool, just because of how quickly it could generate responses. And so, of course, my students were wanting to explore all the ways they might use it, right, to make their workload easier, these sorts of things. But what I started to notice as their instructor was that some were not just using it for lesson planning. Maybe they were using it to support work on other assignments. Um, and so, as an instructor, I had to reflect on how to best approach what was happening. And since I was the one who kind of invited ChatGPT into our classroom, I really had to create a space for conversations about the appropriate use of the tool. So I think a challenge, and this is one I think that many faculty are kind of wrestling with right now, is having those open discussions about when it's okay to rely on ChatGPT's voice versus when students need to lean into their own ideas. Um, and when we could really work through and make space for that, it helped my students to kind of move beyond the novelty of the tool, and really focus in on what it is good at and what are things that they should be prepared to do themselves. And I think it really pushed them to think more intentionally about the tool's purpose and how to use it to support their thinking. And so, yeah, for us, I don't know that it was tech issues, more so just the implications of what happens when you kind of invite this tool into your space, and how do we continue to leave room for conversations and reflection around when to use the tool and when not to use the tool.